You know where you are with, you know where you are with, floor collapsing, falling, bouncing back and walking.
This is a video about a song, but it's also a video about a cultural moment, and if I may so pretentiously declare, a video about humanity itself. If you've been on the internet at all in the past year or so, you've probably heard the song in the intro, whether it be the chorally infused version like in the intro or the original. This song being Let Down by Radiohead from their 1997 album OK Computer. While the song itself is nearly 30 years old, it's seen a massive resurgence lately, not only in the charts, in which it reached the top 100 for the first time ever, but also all over the internet. I mean, I swear 1 in 5 videos I see on places like Instagram and TikTok is an edit with this song scoring. All of this begs the question of why? Why 28 years after the song's release is it suddenly getting so popular? What is it about this cultural moment specifically that so many people are connecting with this song? Why now? Why Let Down? Now, it's important to say before we begin that Let Down is my personal favorite song of all time, and in my authoritative opinion is the greatest song ever written. Right up there with Rainbow Connection, and no, that is not a joke. I'm gonna have to make a video about Rainbow Connection someday. Now, this opinion is an increasingly popular one, and by result, I'm sure is increasingly being seen as basic. But if you let your opinions be dictated by what other people may think of them, you end up more of a mirror than an actual person. I speak from experience. So, yes, Let Down is my favorite song. So what better place to start a deep dive into why this song is so popular than, well, me. My favorite thing to talk about. Although I'd love to say that I've always been a die-hard radio fan and that I liked Let Down before it was cool, that would only be like 25% true. I wouldn't say I've always been a fan of Radiohead, but I've always held an appreciation for their music, especially those songs that were big enough to have a significant presence in the cultural zeitgeist. Prequel Overplayed is a fantastic song, and No Surprises specifically was the soundtrack to many a mental breakdown in my life, but Let Down? I had never heard it before my first year of college. Now, as anyone who has had a freshman year in college knows, it either goes one of two ways. Either it's a Monsters University core party, you are sure life will never be this good again, or it isn't that. For me, it was not that. My first semester of my first year of college was the beginning of what I can only really describe as a complete collapse of everything that I thought made me me. All of the unhealthy mental tendencies that I could ignore during grade school were suddenly shoved into the limelight as I found myself on my own for the first time. Beyond this, I struggled to find my people, a group of peers that I could truly connect with. It was an exceptionally lonely period in my life, but there were exceptions to this, people that I actually did connect with. One of those people, let's call him Josh, was actually the person who introduced me to Let Down. I remember it was an October day. We had just gotten out of a class that we shared, international politics, when he came over to my dorm. I remember we sat on the cheap chairs that me and my roommates had bought from Target and the yellow couch that one of us had gotten from their sister when they found out that she couldn't fit it in her dorm room. And we were showing each other our favorite songs on the TV that we had sitting on a cardboard box in the middle of the room. I showed him my favorite Noah Kahan and Ricky Montgomery songs, and after a bit, he threw on Let Down by Radiohead. He told me that it was his favorite song ever, and one of the greatest ever written. And as those crunchy chords started to fill the room, I thought it was mid. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was because the mixing and speakers on the TV were really bad for music, but maybe I was just not in a place to connect with it, because I just did not think it was that good. But anyway, after a bit, he had to leave and go to his next class, and that would actually be one of the only times we actually hung out one-on-one, as I would end up leaving that school after that semester. But while I was still there, as my mental state got lower and lower, I would make it a habit to go on walks in the middle of the night while the rest of the student body was asleep all around campus. It was on one of these walks in November. The campus trees had all shed their leaves and the air was cold and crisp, that my mind would drift back to that song that Josh had shown me a month before. I know I had thought it was mid, but something was telling me to give it another listen. So I threw on my headphones and I gave it another shot. And this time I did not think it was mid. In fact, as Tom York sang the chorus and the drums crashed, I knew I would never be the same again. Now, one could point to the song's featuring in the season finale of the cultural phenomenon that is The Bear, and this seems like a sound explanation, right? Song gets featured in popular show, song gets popular, but I don't find this very satisfying. I mean, sure, maybe it acted as a point of exposure for the song, but it doesn't explain why so many people have connected to it so much. However, I do think The Bear can point us to a major clue as to what it is about this specific cultural moment that has left so many people in a place where they connect with Let Down as a song. As I said at the beginning, one of the biggest types of videos that Let Down has been featured in are those of edits. Now, of course, people have made edits with Let Down of all different sorts of types of media, but for the sake of this video, I want to focus on 3 specifically, as I've seen them very prevalently, and I also think they generally encapsulate the type of media that are getting the Let Down edit treatment. Those being The Bear, as we've said, Whiplash, and Beautiful Boy. The Bear is a TV show that follows a mentally ill and overly ambitious chef on his journey to culinary greatness, while Whiplash is a film that follows, go figure, a mentally ill and overly ambitious drummer, collegiate drummer specifically, as he chases musical greatness for and in spite of his abusive band director, Fletcher. And finally, Beautiful Boy is a film that follows a dad and his son as they struggle to deal with his son's crippling drug addiction. So what is it about these 3 pieces of media that connects them to each other and to Let Down, and what does that tell us about people's connection to the song? Well, for one thing, they're all really goddamn sad, which leads me to theory number 1. Let Down is a sad song, and people are really sad right now. I mean, on the surface it makes sense and seems an open and shut explanation. It's no secret that mental illness and loneliness are on the rise right now, and especially post-COVID. More people than ever feel completely hopeless and lonely or overworked and underpaid, feeling like everything is deteriorating and the state of the world is only getting worse and worse. So it's no surprise, a bit of a pun there, it's no surprise that people in this position would connect to a sad song like Let Down. Is Let Down a sad song? I mean, Radiohead has a bit of a reputation as the depression band, and Let Down is definitely in a lot of people's sad playlists, myself included, but there's actually a lot of discourse about whether or not the song itself actually is sad. And to answer this, we're going to have to finally look at the lyrics and the song itself. Specifically, I want to dive into the climax of the song, the part that's most frequently used in these video edits. The lyrics in this section read, you know where you are with, you know where you are with, floor collapsing, falling, bouncing back, and one day, I am going to grow wings. A chemical reaction, hysterical and useless, hysterical and let down and hanging around. Well, one interpretation of these lyrics could certainly be one of great sadness, with the idea of one day growing wings being an allegory for, well, death, the greatest escape from the pain and suffering of life. There is another interpretation, one of great hope, where this line signifies liberation, signifies freedom, signifies salvation. So which interpretation is correct? Well, as is the case for all pieces of art, there is no one correct interpretation. And I actually think the multi-interpretive nature of this song is exactly why Let Down has connected with so many people. I want to bring us back to the films and media that I brought up before. Beautiful Boy, Whiplash, The Bear. These are not just sad pieces of media about sadness. They're about struggle. Specifically struggle with passion, with mental illness, with despair, with ambition. Now, these types of stories have always existed, don't get me wrong, but I think very recently they've become kind of the most popular type of story, in a way that just hasn't been the case before this cultural moment. But why? And this question, herein lies the answer to why Let Down has connected with so many people right now, and why these stories and films and pieces of media are so popular. Humanity is in a deep identity crisis. Now, what do I mean by that? And full disclosure, this part of the video is completely unscripted. I'm just riffing at this point. And I want to be honest. I'm not doing very good right now, and I think a lot of people aren't doing very good right now. I mean, how could you be? Look around. As I've said before, the world seems to just be getting worse and worse, and fascism is taking over the country, and the world is getting poorer, and people are being murdered in wars, and greed has superseded and taken over everything about humanity. It is pretty damn hard to not feel hopeless right now. But that is exactly what those in charge want you to feel. Hopeless. They want you to give up, to give in to the despair, to stop fighting, to stop living, to think that there's no point of going on. But that is exactly what we cannot do. None of us can give up right now. Whether or not you are actively feeling hopeful or desperative, no matter what, you cannot give up. We all must keep fighting, because when we do, when we all decide to keep fighting despite that crushing feeling that it is all for nothing, suddenly we are the most powerful force that has ever existed in the universe. Humanity has the potential to create its greatest dreams if we all decide to not give up on each other, and that is what Let Down is about. It's about that struggle within every single one of us to not give up, to live despite it all, to feel our passion, to feel our despair, and despite it, to keep going. I'm rambling. But this is what this song means to me. And this is what I want everyone to take away from this video. So don't give up. Don't give in. Keep fighting. I'm James D. Thank you for watching.